Can you hear me?
Now we're in business, my friend.
All right, done. Yeah, I never log into this computer, and so I had I had to get into my email and all types. So
Oh, good. All right. Well, so Michael Toscano in Charleston, South Carolina. How about introduce yourself and just quick intro, the names of your restaurants.
yeah. So my name is Michael Toscano, and I'm here in Charleston, South Carolina, and in New York City, New York. In Charleston, we have Le Farfalle, and then in New York City, in Greenwich Village, we have Da Toscano.
Awesome, man. So, dude, you've got an interesting backstory. I was reading on your site. You were wanting to be a professional golfer, going up
Yeah,
down to Texas, and here you are owning these incredible two restaurants in two different cities, two high culinary cities. So, I mean, I gotta ask, like, what happened? Where do you still play golf?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I play all the time, but it was um, it was out of necessity. I got a job so it all started at Willow Creek Golf Club in Spring, Texas. So the suburbs north of Houston. I was on the golf team, playing very competitive golf, working towards getting a college scholarship in golf. And in order to practice every day, my family wasn't members at any clubs or anything. So in order to practice every day, I got a job picking the driving range and cleaning the golf carts. Through that, I became friends with the chef, every day when we get our lunch. He was a young guy, enthusiastic, fun to talk to. And he needed help one weekend, and I washed dishes for him, right? So I washed dishes, and I love the environment. I played sports my whole life, and outside of being on a sports team, working together and high intensity and in this, cool atmosphere, I'd never seen anything like it. Excuse my bulldog who is growling back here.
Oh, look at that bulldog. What's your bulldog name?
So anyhow, I quit working on picking the driving range, still practicing every day, but went to the dish pit, started washing dishes. And then only a few months later, after doing that and being really interested in cooking and asking him questions, this was the era of Iron Chef Japan. And so I'd watch these episodes and I'd come in and I'd ask the chef, like, what is this ingredient? What is that ingredient? And he'd tell me all about it, or he'd show me books with it. And so we're still friends to this day. He's an awesome guy, Randall Sansom, but was a tremendous mentor for me, getting into it, but took me from being a dishwasher and then becoming a cook on it's a very small kitchen, but getting to work with him every day and just being excited about this high intensity, new atmosphere I've seen before. So it all started there. I continued playing. I was offered a scholarship to play. You still hear me?
Yeah, it was breaking up a little bit.
Where did I end up?
You were offered a scholarship.
So I was able to get a college scholarship to play golf in college, but I turned it down because simultaneously I got an offer to do a ACF culinary apprenticeship at the Pinehurst Resort, where I got to play $5 golf at all the courses. And I was there for the US Open. Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was there for the US Open. And so I took that, and I realized I was like, I'm a good golfer, but I'm not going pro. When you're in that world and you realize what it takes, being competitive, where there's thousands of us scratch golfers, and it takes way more than that. So I knew I'd go to a mediocre school and get a mediocre education because I'd be, practicing golf all the time. I ended up putting all my efforts into cooking, which I was stoked about. I was so excited, and my parents were super supportive. They saw the drive I had just in the little bit of time that I did it, basically from my junior year to graduation, working at Willow Creek, my first job. And then it was off to Pinehurst, North Carolina, you know? So was able to take it from there and really dive in deep and be surrounded by, learning and cooking and it's where I met my wife, Caitlin, who you know, and we ended up moving up to New York City after I finished my apprenticeship. She was there for her externship from Johnson and Wales, and we met there, and we had been dating for a year, and packed all our stuff and went up to New York City.
Wow, what a journey. Well, you said something. Your parents saw the drive that you had. Man, I think like that's a quality that is so important. And you find these examples of that where you say, okay, this person has this drive, and whether it's specific to this domain or just a general drive, it's such an important quality, because like you wanted to play golf, didn't have a club, so what did? You go get a job, doing whatever you got to do to get out there, which is that like whatever you got to do thing is such a big part, I think, of success and ultimate success in life and business. But I think that's awesome. And also the being honest with yourself and self-aware enough to kind of go, well, I love golf, but I mean, a scratch golfer, I bet there's a lot of scratch golfers that are like, yeah, I know it's hard, but I can do this. I mean, that's got to be tough. But you didn't exactly choose a easier career path, my friend. Like, I mean, maybe the odds are better, maybe that you'll have your in place one day, but then you're going into an industry like, just because you have your in place doesn't mean anything, because restaurants come and go all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's why I had a meeting this morning, talking with a charity that's working with underprivileged children, and exactly what you touched on, that drive. That's kind of that's what I can share with every one of my cooks, my sous chefs, my chefs. There's nothing that's in this industry. You work with so many people who, I'm just a cook. What can I do? I can't do anything. That's what I started out as. I was nothing more than a dishwasher. I was mediocre in school, and kind of that opportunity for that apprenticeship was my chance to be successful. And there was kind of nothing in my way, nothing that would stand in my way to keep me from getting there. And, you set small goals, and there's nothing that I wouldn't have done to be better than the next guy, be better than that person, or get the next job. And I feel like not enough people think of it that way, have that drive. I think it has to do with maybe playing sports and being competitive, but
yes,
so being able to share that with children with who maybe don't have that kind of drive at home, or whatever it is, that's a big passion for me. It's you don't need to be given anything to be successful, and it's all what you can put into it and how tough you can be to make sure that you surpass all your obstacles and hurdles, because it's not easy. No way, shape or form. It's not easy.
No, it isn't. And nobody ever said it would be, or will say it will be, and things won't be fair at times, but you're right. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I'm glad to hear that you're volunteering your time in the community for that, because there are probably a lot of kids out there that, maybe they just got a bad situation at home or whatever, and don't even really know. Maybe they're hearing negative things all the time, like, you don't ever have a chance or whatever. But man, if you've got that determination, that drive, and it is an interesting dynamic, the sports part of this. I don't know whether it's like that brings it out of us, or maybe it's in there and we become you become a better competitor because of that. But I mean, like, I hear you talking about, like, being better than the next guy there in the restaurant or on the line or as a cook. I mean, but that's exactly what you were doing on the golf course. And, it's hard. So you go, well, what can I do? But your story is awesome, man. And I mean, it's amazing how many people started out as teenage dishwashers that I speak to for this podcast, that now in very successful restaurants and are very happy and very fulfilled, and, have gone up the ranks. And taking some risks along the way too, which you have to do. In fact, that's a big part of this, man. You all moved up to New York. I know you worked for some really well-known folks there, but at some point you hung a shingle, and was Da Toscano your first? That was your own?
No, so Perla was my first on my own. So I was with Mario Vitale for years, and there was a point where we had opened Italy together, and I was running the fine dining restaurant there, and he started telling me, he's like, start looking for spaces. We had talked about me wanting to have my own spot, and there was kind of a moment there where I started doing that. And I love Mario, controversial or not. He's a great person, and I don't believe with a lot of the things that he was, there's a lot of maybe not full stories or lack of truth, but besides that, I started looking for spaces with him to open my own restaurant. And then I kind of stepped back, and I thought, will I want to be in his shadow forever? Will I want to be under his umbrella forever? What will this look like in 5 years? Let's say I make this into a successful restaurant. How much credit will he get for it? So I made a choice at that moment to go out on my own. I got a different partner, someone who I knew, and we opened a restaurant called Perla, which happens to be in the Da Toscano space. So the space that we went back to New York to open up in is my original spot called Perla.
So when did you open Perla?
That was in 2012. I may be off the year, but I'm pretty sure it's 2012.
And you all moved to Charleston in 2015?
Yep.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Oh, you opened your restaurant there, but then you went back to open Da Toscano?
No, so whenever I opened I opened Perla, and then with my partner at that point, I took over 3 other of his restaurants. So I had 3, and then sold them and moved to Charleston.
Okay, I got you. Why'd y'all pick Charleston? I mean, other than the obvious, like.
Yeah, right. I mean, I had heard amazing things, and we were excited to visit one year when I was invited to cook at the Charleston Wine and Food Festival, and I was pumped to get down there, and it was everything we thought it would be. It's a beautiful place, great restaurants, great community, great place for our kids to grow up. And we kind of made a decision really quickly that shocked a lot of people. And we got out of the city just like that. Moved down to Charleston, took about a year to find a space. And then we opened up Le Farfalle. And then not until a year and a half ago, we opened Da Toscano back in the Perla space, which went out of business maybe a year after I left.
Okay.
And then sat vacant, and we went back after that. The owner of that building called me, and we worked out a great deal and went back in that space.
Le Farfalle, is that the
Le Farfalle.
Le Farfalle?
Yeah.
Does that mean butterfly bowtie pasta, or is that?
Well, so in Italian, language, nothing's a exact translation, right? So you could type it in, and it means the butterfly, but it means to live unrealistically or chase your dreams, chase butterflies.
Okay. Yeah, I looked that up. Well, that's why I did. I was like, translate, and it was like really nebulous. I was like, this doesn't, like, there's all these different, like,
yeah.
I got the idea that it was a lot more than that. Yeah, the chasing butterflies, living. That's really cool. That's a great concept.
We thought so.
Well, you've lived it. I mean, look, you've gone from, hoping to be a golfer in Texas to one of the coolest golfing places in the world to learn a new trade, and up to New York, which is just its own adventure, and then down to this beautiful place, Charleston. So I've heard wonderful, wonderful things. I'm in Waxhaw, so I'm just south of Charlotte.
Gotcha.
I've heard amazing things about your restaurant down there, Michael.
Thank you.
So I really look forward to, once we kind of get back into the normal routine of hitting the road and doing some traveling and stuff like that, man, I'm going to come visit y'all.
We look forward to it. Yeah.
You got an enviable stack of books there behind your left shoulder. Do you read a lot?
A ton,
You
ton.
do.
I mean, that's what I preach the most is, my education. You go into work and you work your shift, and if that's your extent of your education, you're not going to go too far. All these books are all the cookbooks that I've had, that I've built when I was spending my entire paycheck on cookbooks, and then now I've been able to grow it pretty to a pretty large level. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my education right there. That's learning classic repertoire from old Italian books to what my you know other great chefs are cooking, and being able to see their derivatives of classic cuisine. And so it's what I love to do. I love to read about cooking.
If it's another example of that, man, I just feel like if I've got three kids,
Mhm.
17, 14, and 12, and we have this conversation a lot around here. Man, you got no idea how great you have it. Like, and you don't, because you don't have any context, so I don't expect you to, but like, oh my goodness, you live in the United States in 2021. You like, I mean, two of my three kids have $1,000 iPhone they carry around. I'm like, man, don't ever give me an excuse for anything. Like for anything, for any reason, I don't want to hear an excuse, because you can do whatever you want. You can learn whatever you want. Like, there's nothing holding you back if you want it. But the underlying italicized words are if you want it, or if you want it enough, it should really be what it is, because the enough part means is that you're willing to do whatever it takes versus I want that. I really want to be this, but as soon as there's a word, there's a but, forget it. Like, but there's just no reason to have that but where we are today. I mean, our country has its issues, everyone does, but my goodness gracious, like I'm very inspired, I guess, hearing your story. I feel like we share a lot of philosophy on just, having that drive to go out, and if you want something, man, it's yours for the taking if you really want it.
And it's putting in the work when you don't want to, because that's
Yeah.
that's the big misconception.
That's a
It,
huge
that it oh, I'm doing what I love. It's going to be amazing every step of the way. I love
no.
doing it. That's so far from the truth. And in our industry, you know, it allowed me to tolerate through those tough times, and I almost dove in deeper doing it. But if you're able to grind through when you're missing that holiday with your family because you're working, or you're doing the things that you need to do to be successful at the position you're in, that's how you accomplish goals. That's how you make it happen. And whatever balance you need to create for yourself, just have the full vision. Have the full vision, and know what you need to do to accomplish it. I feel like that's the big thing. People tend to mistake balance for needing to be comfortable, and balance isn't always being comfortable. It's staying healthy, and that's mentally and physically. So it's a wild and interesting time right now, and I'm all about all the new changes in our industry with keeping people safe mentally and physically, and caring for our employees and doing all these things. And it just kills me whenever people confuse the two, confuse it for being allowing you to take advantage of it, to take advantage of working hard.
What a fine line. What a fine line. And it's such a gray thing. It's hard to know sometimes. Like, hey, you want to encourage people, need to take care of themselves mentally, physically. You need to have an outlet. You need to have, time to yourself to think or pray or whatever your meditate or whatever your path is. You need to take care of yourself physically and eat well so that you're, able to do what you got to do. And so it's great that the industry is recognizing that. But boy, for every positive, there's always those that'll just full on take advantage of it. And I imagine that's got to be tough as an owner and an operator, to balance trying to decipher, where's the line with that stuff? Can somebody just decide not to show up, once every week or whatever, and just say, well, I needed, personal time or for mental health. But then like, it's a point where like, you got to run a business. So that must
It's
be
tough.
hard.
It is tough, but I feel like that's all that we can do is lay out the parameters, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I and our team, partner Joseph, um, just being able to talk about everything, laying it out there, letting everyone know, what the rules are, how to move forward. And as long as all those things are out there, it sets up a pretty good guideline for how to treat these things, if you need a moment for yourself, that's fine, but there's a protocol for it. It's not just, I'm not going to show up today. I'm not going to call you. I'm not going to text you, nothing. And I'm just not going to come, but I needed a mental health day. I mean, things happen, there are circumstances for everything, but as long as you set up the parameters, I feel like it's manageable.
I'm curious how y'all are navigating that, or if you're having to navigate it differently now with such a challenging environment for finding people to work in the first place. I had an owner tell me last week, he said, I can't even fire somebody almost anymore if they don't show up. It's like, I used to just say, like, 2 strikes and you're out, or 3 away. He's like, now I just hope they'll, it's like hard, because who am I going to replace them with? Are y'all dealing with that some down there?
Absolutely. I mean, New York and Charleston, it's very similar. It's tough to discipline whenever there's no one to replace. So we do fall in that, and it is a tremendous challenge. And what it's come down to is, where do we put our foot down, and what am I willing to do as the owner operator? Am I willing to go on the line, cook on the grill? Absolutely. So, for the last 2 months when we were short, I was with the guys cooking on the line, cleaning up at the end of the night, doing all the stuff. And that's what we do for our businesses. We care more than most people can imagine. So also letting them see that, it's setting a good example, leading by example.
Yeah. Well, people are mimetic, they kind of, whether they know it or not, subconsciously follow what they see and hear. So I'm sure y'all, there's no doubt in my mind, y'all are fabulous leaders. It's very clear. Do you feel like the industry, the industry is going through some changes? The industry those changes have probably accelerated through COVID. But one thing that I believe that never goes out of favor and never will is just, while on one end, maybe it's great that you have these like quick service options, fast or whatever, like people are moving fast. I want something that's cheap and quick and whatever. But like, I feel like there's just never going to not be a need for people to come to a place where they feel like they're welcome and they're well taken care of and they're treated, with respect, and they have a good vibe and a good energy and all the things that I'm sure y'all probably create there. So, and I say this in light of the fact that like we've seen at Schedule Fly since this happened, like a lot of places close that, won't ever reopen. The market, maybe it was a little oversaturated. I don't know. We had a long run with a really good economy and a lot of restaurants, but I'm just like, I always like to ask, people that are in the middle of it, like you, what you think is happening and just your general thoughts on that.
I mean, that very thing is, what all of us, I can only speak for myself, but I know that everybody was constantly thinking about, all the different things that we had to do in that past year and a half of where we are. Things are happening. We're in and it was wild operating in New York and in Charleston, polar opposites. The way this whole thing was treated, polar opposites. So, in my opinion, South Carolina did an amazing job. New York was far too conservative to our detriment. So many restaurants struggled so hard just dealing with the regulations and things that the government put out.
Yeah, they were tough.
Where in Charleston. So as we were dealing with this over the timeline of the pandemic, you know, we're seeing all these new technologies come out, and this, and like at that very moment, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know how long it was going to happen for. So, you know, do we eliminate service and have iPads on the table? And it's just what you're talking about. People want to go to the places, and that may be old way of thinking, but that's never going to go away. People crave that experience. That's part of dining out. As important as the food is, you know, when you sit down and the way you're greeted, or the way you're greeted at the door or over the phone for a reservation, if you had to call someone, which is abnormal these days, that's all important. You know, so whenever we're able to deliver that experience, I feel like that's what separates us from other restaurants. You know, not all, like there are other great restaurants that do the same thing, but that's what we strive to do, is to be friendly and know your name, know your drink. Imagine if you just come in to Le Farfalle and you're then typing your order into an iPad. It's that doesn't do it. It removes half of the experience, maybe more. So, you know, did we change much? No, we worked with a tighter team. We were smart about how we changed the menus. We made pivots that kept us doing what we do, allowing people to still have that great experience. But we made decisions in our behind the scenes that made it work financially. You know, so having a tighter team, Caitlin and I working every night, making a smaller menu that still had all the greatest hits, but, you know, eliminating a solid 25 to 40% at sometimes part of the menu. Doing a lot of these things, closing off parts of the restaurant. You know, we did that in different stages all throughout as the regulations, you know, let up, and then we were able to go 100%, and we worked our way back to being a full-on restaurant. Nearly nothing changed, with a few changes that we learned. The silver lining of some of the pandemic was, you know, seeing how we could operate in a different way with less staff. But as we worked our way back to full capacity, we were able to use some of these things. In that, we realized we had a you know, very busy takeaway and delivery business that we'd never had before. And because of that, out of that necessity of people needing to order like that, they continue to order like that. So now, as we're able to, or we're only able to put out so much food, but when we're able to during the week, we have, you know, all those platforms open, and people can get Le Farfalle to go. That's crazy to me. You know, putting a $55 steak in a to-go box and like having these $150 tabs for a takeout order, it's wild. But it became something that allowed us to keep from having to open lunch again, you know, and hire an extra manager, an extra sous chef, and 2 extra cooks. And that's eliminated now, and we're beating our numbers by doing takeout and having a thriving dinner business. You know, so it's wild, the few things that we learned from it, and we're able to adapt and give our clientele what they were wanting.
Yeah, these things can break you, or they can make you stronger, for sure. A $55 steak, is it what kind of steak is that?
Yeah. So we have a few. We have prime ribeye, a fillet. We have tomahawk pork chops. We have all types of stuff. Rack of lamb. So seeing all these beautiful proteins put in a to-go box. I mean, but at the same time, people didn't have to leave their house, and they had a great meal at home. You know, and that's the best part, is hearing from our guests who tell me, you don't know how great it was to have your food during the pandemic in my house. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't enjoy anything. And your, you know, chicken parm got me through the pandemic. Like that's amazing to hear. You know, what more do you want?
That's so awesome, man. Speaking of balance and stuff, I mean, you know, you've done what you've had to do, and maybe we're on the tail end of this thing. Hopefully, like, what do you do to, other than golf? What kinds of things do you do, or you and Caitlin do, to just get what you need outside of the business.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin and I, she got me into it right after we opened Toscano. She, when I was in New York for a good chunk of time, solid, where I wasn't coming home, she started working out at this place called Iron Tribe. It's a HIIT training, high intensity interval training,
Yeah.
similar to CrossFit. She started that, and just, you know, it was medicine for her. You know, it was her release. It was something that, you know, we never made time to work out. Like, it was, you know, it's just like everyone. We're too busy. We're too this or this,
Yeah.
that. And she went there and fell in love with it. Fell in love with the community that was, you know, at this gym, and all the things. I came back and we did this 6-week challenge that they have once a year. And so I got back from when the pandemic started, got back, and I was her partner for it. We ended up coming in second place out of you know, over 100 teams, and I was hooked at that point. And now 6 days a week I work out. I have a gym in my garage. Like, I can't get enough of it. So now it's golf and working out, and I love it. I have this, you know, kind of obsessive personality where when I get into something, I don't put it down. But that's my I got hooked just like I got hooked on golf. So that's what we do it together. We do it in the morning.
Brother. I
Yeah.
see. I hear you, man. No, I'm the same. I love that. I think that's great, man. That's really good. It's cool that y'all can do that together.
I love it. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, boy, it's such an important thing. People, I mean, boy, it's amazing. Like, I'm not surprised when she first did that. You start doing that kind of stuff. I'm 47 right now, and I was like 34, and we had our second kid, and you know, I was just kind of letting it slide gradually. My wife had some trainer, and she couldn't go that day, and I took her place because we were going to eat the $50 or whatever, and she whipped my butt. Like, I was like, went in there like, okay, I'll go to your trainer. Destroyed me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it lit a fire. Like, I couldn't do one pull up, and I used to go to a lot of pull ups in high school. She's like, do pull ups. I was like, okay, couldn't do one. That fire is still in here right now. Like, I mean, like, from that day 13 years ago, or whatever it was, man, I can just remind myself of that moment and keep that fire burning to this day.
I love it.
Really, I could geek out with you all day on that stuff. But it's really important. It brings it. If you really, especially like the high intensity stuff you're talking, like, that's just like, you can't do that and not feel good after. Like, you'll feel worn out and whatever, but then, like, just spend the rest of your day going,
Ready. Yeah, for sure.
Well, look, man, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I'm going to come have one of those steaks because I love steak. I love steak. You got a ribeye. Set one aside for me, man.
There you go.
We
can't have you, and take good care of you.
Yeah, man. And so, Caitlin, hello and thank you. And just thanks to your team, man. We appreciate the business, appreciate everything. We're here if you need anything, always. And but just, dude, inspiring story, man. I'm glad to get to know you very much. I can't wait to meet you in person, Michael.
That was fun. I can't wait for it. Yeah. Yeah, we look forward to you coming down.
All right, we'll see you. Take care.
Have me on. Yeah.